What was the first airplane flown?
Orville and Wilbur Wright were the first two people to fly in a heavier-than-air vehicle, called the Flyer. They made their historic flight on December 17, 1903, at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
Who designed and planned the capital of Brazil?
Brasilia was created in 1956 by two people, urban planner Lucio Costa and architect Oscar Niemeyer.
Who are the Kurds?
The Kurds are a Middle Eastern people who have no country of their own. They live in southeastern Turkey, northern Iran, northern Iraq, and other nearby countries. Since the Kurds have been persecuted by Iraq, the United Nations established a security zone for them north of 36 degrees north in Iraq. The Kurds hope that one day they will have their own nation-state in the region where they now live.
Where are Sierra Madre Occidental and Sierra Madre Oriental?
Sierra Madre Occidental and Sierra Madre Oriental are two mountain ranges in Mexico. The ranges' names stem from the meanings of Occidental, Western, and Oriental, Eastern. Thus the Sierra Madre Occidental lies along Mexico's west coast and the Sierra Madre Oriental lies along the east coast.
When were the first roads built?
Archaeologists have found remnants of early roads in Ur, Iraq, and Glastonbury, Scotland, dating back to 4000 B.C.E.
How much water is in snow?
When about 10 inches, 25 centimeters, of snow melts, it turns into about 1 inch of water. Snow has pockets of air between snowflakes when they are on the ground. So it takes 10 times the snow to make an equivalent amount of water.
What is the National Geographic Society?
Founded in 1888, the National Geographic Society has supported exploration, cartography, and discovery and publishes the popular magazine National Geographic, the fifth most popular magazine in the United States.
How big is the Sahara Desert?
The Sahara is the world's largest desert. It covers more than 3.5 million square miles, 9 million square kilometers, in northern Africa. The Sahara receives less than 10 inches, 25 centimeters, of rain each year but contains hundreds of individual oases. The elevation in the Sahara Desert ranges from 100 feet, 30.5 meters, below, to more than 11,000 feet, 3,353 meters, above sea level. There are people who live in the Sahara, mostly at or near oases.
What is the European country most visited by tourists?
Over 76 million people visit France each year. Spain is the next most popular with 56 million visitors.
Where are the highlands?
The island of Great Britain is divided into highlands and lowlands along the Tees-Exe line, which runs between Plymouth in the south and Middlesbrough on the east coast. To the southeast of this line lie the flat plains of England, while to the northwest lie the Scottish Highlands.
When and where was the last great impact on the Earth from a near-Earth object?
The last big impact was in 1908 in Tunguska, Russia, in Siberia. Scientists do not know for sure what hit the Earth. It could have been a comet or meteoroid, but whatever it was, it had an estimated explosive energy of 15 megatons.
Are kangaroos native to Australia?
Yes, kangaroos are native to Australia. Kangaroos range in size from giant kangaroos, 5 feet 1.5 meters tall, to tiny, rat-sized kangaroos, called potoroos.
Where is the Middle East today?
It is generally agreed that the Middle East includes Egypt, Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, the countries of the Arabian Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, Turkey, and Iran. Most regional specialists also include the countries of Northern Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. The new countries of Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia. Former Soviet republics are also often included in the region.
How large is Brazil?
Brazil makes up just under 50% of the land area of the entire South American continent. It is the world's fifth largest country, with 3.3 million square miles. 8.5 million square kilometers of territory.
What is the difference between a watch and a warning?
The U.S. National Weather Service issues watches and warnings for a variety of hazards when they may be imminent. A watch, such as a tornado watch or a flood watch, means that such an event is likely to occur or is predicted to occur. A warning is more serious. It means that a hazard is already occurring or is imminent. Warnings are usually broadcast on television and radio stations via the emergency alert system, formerly known as the emergency broadcast system.
Why are so many ships registered in Liberia?
Though most are owned by foreign corporations and spend little time in Liberian territorial waters. Many ships register in Liberia because of its low fees for registering ocean vessels. Over 1,600 ships are registered there, giving Liberia one of the world's largest merchant fleets.
What is a census?
A census is an enumeration, or counting, of a population. The information from a census is used to help governments determine where to provide services. Based on the demographics of the population. Information about age, gender, number of children, race, languages spoken, education. Commuting distance, salary, and other demographic variables is common in a census. This information is compiled and provided to government agencies and is usually accessible to the general public. In the United States and most other developed nations, a census takes place once every decade. The Constitution of the United States requires a census to be taken every 10 years. In order to create districts and determine the number of members of Congress each state is able to send to the House of Representatives.
What is the Mercalli scale?
The Mercalli scale measures the power of an earthquake as felt by humans and structures. It was developed in 1902 by Italian geologist Giuseppe Mercalli. The Mercalli scale is written in Roman numerals and it ranges from I, barely felt, to 12, catastrophic. The Mercalli scale can be mapped surrounding an epicenter and will vary based on the geology of an area.
How much beef does Australia export?
Australia is responsible for more than 26% of the world's beef exports, 1,203,000 metric tons.
What are the principal industries in the Maldives?
Tourism and fisheries contribute the most to the Maldives' GDP, which is approximately $1.569 billion per year.
What were the Buddhas of Bamiyan?
The Buddhas of Bamiyan were two gigantic sculptures, one measuring 180 feet, 55 meters, and the other 121 feet, 37 meters, high, that were built in the 6th century CE. Located 143 miles, 230 kilometers, northwest of Kabul, Afghanistan. They were designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and were one of the great archaeological and religious sites in the world. In 2001, the Taliban regime in Afghanistan ordered their destruction, and they were dynamited. Many countries, including Japan and Switzerland, have pledged their support to rebuild these cultural treasures.
What are ocean currents?
The oceans don't remain still, their water is constantly moving in giant circles known as currents. In the northern hemisphere, currents move clockwise, while in the southern hemisphere they move counterclockwise. Currents help to moderate temperatures on land in places like the British Isles, which are farther north than the U.S. Canadian border, by sending warm water from the Caribbean northeast across the Atlantic Ocean to northern Europe. A current known as the Antarctic Circumpolar Current circles the southern continent. The North Atlantic and North Pacific Oceans each have a large clockwise current, while the South Atlantic and South Pacific Oceans each have a large counterclockwise current.
Why do people travel to Mecca?
The Holy Book of Islam, the Quran, requires that all Muslims make a journey, known as a pilgrimage, to the city of Mecca at some time in their lives. Mecca, located in Saudi Arabia, is the holiest city of Islam, as it was the birthplace of Muhammad, the founder of Islam in the 6th century, and contains many important religious sites. Non-Muslims are forbidden to enter Mecca.
From where does the word fjord originate?
The word fjord comes from the Norse language and means where you travel across. It is significant to early Norwegians as a place to travel across to get to the sea when there were no bridges available.
How many African countries were colonized by Italy?
Italy established colonies in what are now Libya, Eritrea, and Somalia.
What is a Reich?
The word Reich literally means empire in German. The First Reich is considered to be the Holy Roman Empire from 800 to 1806 CE. The Second Reich was Germany. United under Otto von Bismarck, from 1871 to 1918. In 1933, Adolf Hitler established the Third Reich. The Nazi regime, which lasted until the defeat of Germany at the end of World War II, in 1945.
Where did the mutineers of the Bounty land?
In 1789, members of the crew of the HMS Bounty mutinied. After having dropped off 19 other members of the crew, including Captain William Bligh, the mutineers landed on the uninhabited island of Pitcairn. While the captain and his loyal crew successfully returned to England, the mutineers established a community composed of 9 male mutineers, 6 male Polynesians, and 12 female Polynesians who had also been on board the Bounty. In 1856, approximately 200 of the mutineers' descendants voluntarily moved from Pitcairn Island to Norfolk Island because of overpopulation.
Who owns the world's oceans?
The battle over control of the world's oceans has increased over the past few decades due to the discovery of vast mineral and fuel resources located under the sea. In 1958, the United Nations held the first conference on the law of the sea. This conference established territorial seas, measuring 12 nautical miles, 22.24 kilometers, from the shore of coastal nations that are under the full control of that country. The United States, along with such countries as North Korea, Chad, Liberia, and Iran, have refused to sign the treaty. Additionally, countries have mineral, fuel, and fishing rights in an exclusive economic zone, EEZ, that spans 200 nautical miles, 370.6 kilometers, from shore. Problems arise when two countries' zones overlap. Median lines between countries have been drawn in most cases, but there are still many areas of disagreement.
Which African country has Spanish as an official language?
Equatorial Guinea, which is composed of 5 islands in the Gulf of Guinea and a tiny sliver of land between Cameroon and Gabon, was a colony of Spain until 1968 and has kept Spanish as its official language. The capital city of Malabo is located on the island of Bioko, previously named Fernando Poo.
Is Scotland a country?
While Scotland does have limited self-rule, it is still part of the country of the United Kingdom. Scotland occupies the northern portion of the island of Great Britain.
Which South American country was the first to gain independence from colonial rule?
In 1816, Argentina gained independence from Spain. International recognition of the independent country, then called the United Provinces of the Plate River, did not come until 1823, when the United States recognized the new state.
Why are the Missouri-Mississippi rivers lumped together?
Actually, the Missouri River was incorrectly named. The Missouri River is actually the main feeder river of what is now known as the Mississippi River. Usually, the main feeder bears the same name as the rest of the river. Therefore, the full length of the Mississippi River, including the Missouri River, is known as the Missouri-Mississippi River.
What are the most polluted cities in the world in terms of air quality?
The most severe air pollution can be found in the following cities: Cairo, Egypt; Delhi, India; Kolkata, India; Tianjin, China; Chongqing, China; Kanpur, India; Lucknow, India; Jakarta, Indonesia; and Shenyang, China.
Where is the land of the rising sun?
The Japanese name for Japan, Nippon, which means origin of the sun, evolved into land of the rising sun. The name probably derived from the fact that for centuries, Japan was the easternmost known land, and thus where the sun seemed to rise.
Which country is the world's leading bauxite producer?
Australia mines more bauxite than any other country in the world, producing 33% of the world's supply annually. An ore of aluminum, bauxite is especially prevalent in Australia's Darling Range, located in the southwestern part of the country.
How many provinces are in Canada?
Canada is divided into 10 provinces and 3 territories. The 10 provinces are Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, and Saskatchewan. Canada's territories are Yukon Territory, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut.
What percentage of people live in the megacities of the world?
Only 4% of the inhabitants of Earth live in gigantic urban areas. The rest live in areas with populations of less than 10 million people. 25% of the world's inhabitants live in urban areas with fewer than 500,000 residents.
Where was Kunta Kinte from?
Kunta Kinte, the protagonist of Alex Haley's novel Roots, was from Gambia. Though Gambia follows 200 miles, 322 kilometers, of the Gambia River, it is a very thin country, averaging only 12 miles, 19 kilometers, in width. Gambia lies entirely within Africa's smallest country, Senegal.
Was the 2005 New Orleans disaster caused by a flood or a hurricane?
The initial cause of the disaster was Hurricane Katrina, which whipped up tides and surged rain and sea water against a very fragile levee system that protected New Orleans. The city is 49% below sea level, and so when the man-made levees broke, flood waters moved in and inundated much of the city.
Did glaciers create the Great Lakes?
Yes, the Great Lakes are the world's largest lakes formed by glaciers. During the Pleistocene epoch, glaciers inched over the Great Lakes area, moving weak rock out of their way and leaving behind huge, carved basins. As the glaciers began to melt, the basins filled with water and created the Great Lakes.
Why do some people eat dirt?
The practice of eating dirt, called geophagy, is most commonly practiced by pregnant and lactating women. Since women's bodies require additional nutrients during pregnancy and lactation, the body craves clays and dirts that carry these additional minerals. This practice is most common in Africa, but the practice spread to the United States with the forced migration of Africans during slavery. Geophagy is now also practiced in the southern United States, but the practice has become a cultural rather than physiological action.
Where is the world's largest marsh?
The Everglades in Florida is the world's largest marsh, consisting of 2,185 square miles, 5,659 square kilometers. The water across the southern Florida marsh averages 6 inches, 15 centimeters, in depth. The Everglades is an endangered ecosystem, threatened by excess drainage and the introduction of exotic plants.
Where do the illegal immigrants come from?
Approximately 57% of illegal immigrants come from Mexico, 11% from Central America, 9% from East Asia, 8% from South America, and 4% from Europe and the Caribbean.
Are mega-urban area populations growing?
Despite what we might think, of the top 20 large urban areas in the world, nearly half experience population growth of only 1.5%.
Where is Catalonia?
Catalonia is an autonomous region in northeastern Spain. Because Catalonia is home to more than 6 million Spanish Catalans, who have their own language and culture. Many in the region would like the territory to become an independent nation. Spain does not want Catalonia to secede, as Catalonia is responsible for a sizable portion of Spanish economic production. Catalonia's capital is Barcelona, the host city of the 1992 Summer Olympics.
What is a potentially hazardous asteroid or FA?
A FA is an object that is large enough to be detected by astronomers on Earth. It has an orbital path that could bring it in close proximity to Earth.
How can I remember which way latitude and longitude run?
You can remember that the lines of latitude run east and west by thinking of lines of latitude as rungs on a ladder, latitude. Lines of longitude are quite long because they run from the North Pole to the South Pole.
Where is the Yucatan?
The Yucatan is a large peninsula in southern Mexico. The Yucatan Peninsula points toward Florida and separates the Gulf of Mexico from the Caribbean Sea.
What is the oldest continuously published newspaper in the United States?
In 1764, Thomas Green founded the Hartford Courant in Hartford, Connecticut, which is the oldest continuously published newspaper in the United States.
What are the 4 climatic regions of the Andes?
The Andes are known for their 4 defined climatic zones, which are based on elevation. The lowest zone, Tierra Caliente, hotlands, is ascribed to the area from the plains to 2,500 feet. 762 meters, and is where most of the population resides. The second zone is Tierra Templada, temperate land, which is from 2,500 to 6,000 feet, 762 to 1,829 meters. The third zone is Tierra Fria, cold land, which is from 6,000 to 12,000 feet, 1,829 to 3,658 meters. Above 12,000 feet, 3,658 meters, is the fourth zone, Tierra Helada, frozen land.
Where on the planet is it light 24 hours a day in the summer?
In the extreme north and south parts of the Earth, north of 66.5 degrees north, and south of 66.5 degrees south latitudes. It is light 24 hours a day during the summer and dark 24 hours a day during the winter. Northern cities like Reykjavik, Iceland, and Murmansk, Russia, have nearly 24 hours of daylight for a short period of time during the summer months.
What is the highest mountain on Earth?
The highest mountain lies on the Big Island of Hawaii, with a height from the bottom of the seafloor rising 33,474 feet, 10,203 meters, to the top of Mauna Kea, which is a volcano that rises 13,680 feet, 4,170 meters, above sea level.
What type of rocks are formed by lava?
Igneous rocks are formed when liquid magma under the surface of the Earth, or lava on the surface of the Earth, cools and hardens into rock.
What is the NCGE?
The National Council for Geographic Education, NCGE, is an organization of educators that seeks to promote geographic education. The NCGE publishes the Journal of Geography and holds conferences every year.
Why did the international dateline recently move?
Prior to 1995, the country of Kiribati, consisting of 21 inhabited islands, straddled the international date line, thus dividing the country into 2 days. In 1995, Kiribati decided to shift its portion of the international date line far to the east so that the entire country could be on the same side of the date line.
Where does Asia end and Europe begin?
Though Europe and Asia are actually part of one large landmass, tradition has split the region into 2 continents along the Ural Mountains in western Russia.
Who was Che Guevara?
Escobedo Che Guevara, 1928 to 1967, was an Argentine Marxist revolutionary, physician, author, and guerrilla leader. He formed his political ideas after seeing the extreme poverty in Latin America. Believing that the cause was economic inequality due to monopolistic capitalism, neocolonialism, and imperialism. He was instrumental in helping Cuba's Fidel Castro overthrow the U.S.-backed dictator Fulgencio Batista.
What is the Oglala Aquifer?
The Oglala Aquifer is a huge aquifer that spans an area from Texas to Colorado and Nebraska. The oldest water deposited in the aquifer is over 1 million years old. And only a very small amount of water is added each year. The Oglala Aquifer is being pumped rapidly by the farms in the region, causing a reduction in the amount of water in the aquifer. Consequently, wells have to be continually deepened so that they can continue to pump water.
What was the first independent country in the Caribbean?
Haiti was the first independent country in the Caribbean. In 1791, the slaves in Haiti revolted, which led to Haiti's independence from France in 1804. Though Haiti once occupied the entire island of Hispaniola, Haiti now shares the island with the Dominican Republic.
How many people on average are killed by tornadoes each year in the United States?
Approximately 1,500 people are killed each year due to the destructive power of tornadoes. Many more people are injured and displaced as a result.
How many taxi cab drivers are there in the United States?
More than 230,000 taxi cab drivers work the streets, with more than 38% being immigrants to the United States.
How old is the Korean civilization?
The Korean civilization is more than 4,000 years old, with archaeological evidence dating back to 2333 B. CE.
What have been some of the most destructive floods in history?
In the United States, the failure of a dam in 1889 upstream from the community of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, killed 2,200 people. Some of the world's most catastrophic flooding takes place in China. A flood on the Huanghe River in 1931 killed 3.7 million people.
How is water used in the home?
About 41% of household water is used for flushing the toilets, 37% is used for bathing, and the remaining 22% is used for washing dishes, 6%, drinking and cooking, 5%. Laundry, 4%, cleaning, 3%, lawn and garden usage, 2%, and other purposes.
What was the Klondike Gold Rush?
In 1896, gold was discovered in an area of Western Canada known as the Klondike. Located in the Yukon Territory where the Klondike and Yukon rivers meet. Once the news of the discovery spread, tens of thousands of people headed west, creating the Klondike Gold Rush.
Why is permafrost so important?
Aside from the mediating effects on the Earth's temperature, permafrost provides a cover for the habitat that supports wild flora and fauna, which provides sustenance for the entire ecosystem of the Arctic regions, including the many indigenous people who live there.
What was the baby boom?
Due to post-World War II prosperity, there was a boom in American births between 1946 and 1964. Now referred to as the baby boom. During this time, approximately 77 million babies were born in the United States. A very large number compared to that of other time spans. As the baby boomers approach retirement age, health and welfare services for the elderly will become high priority as the country prepares for a higher proportion of older people in its population than ever before.
Why are there so many starving people in Ethiopia?
Droughts in the 1970s and 1980s, which were especially severe from 1984 to 1986, destroyed Ethiopian agriculture. Though relief food was shipped to Ethiopia, internal political corruption kept the food from reaching the starving victims. During the 1980s, approximately 1 million people died of starvation in Ethiopia.
What is the actual name of Bogota?
Bogota, Colombia, was originally called Santa Fe. More recently, the name became Santa Fe de Bogotá. Today, the Colombian capital is known as Bogotá for short. And about 8 million people live in its metropolitan area.
What are the 5 most populous U.S. states?
The 5 most populous states are California, 33.8 million, Texas, 20.8 million, New York, 18.9 million, Florida, 15.9 million, and Illinois, 12.4 million.
Who would purposely create false maps?
Within the former Soviet Union, incorrect maps were produced as a matter of course. Soviet maps purposely showed the locations of towns, rivers, and roads in incorrect places. Often, in different editions of the same map, towns would disappear from one version to the next. Street maps of Moscow were particularly incorrect and non-proportional. The cartographic deceit of the USSR was an effort to keep the geography of the country a secret. Not only from foreigners but also from its own citizens. Even official government agencies were not allowed to have accurate maps.
Where is Atlantis?
Atlantis, the legendary underwater utopia supposedly located west of the Pillars of Hercules. The land on either side of the Strait of Gibraltar, was first described by Plato in the 4th century B.C., before the Common Era, as a magnificent civilization that was swallowed by the sea. Though Plato believed Atlantis to have been destroyed, the legend has grown over the centuries to describe the civilization as an underwater kingdom. Researchers now believe that the legend of Atlantis was based on the ancient Minoan civilization that lived on the Greek islands of Thera and Crete, which disappeared after a volcanic eruption in the 16th century BCE. Thus, the Minoan civilization in Thera and Crete fits the approximate date of Atlantis's destruction, but not its supposed location.
What are the largest metropolitan areas in the United States?
The New York metropolitan area is America's largest, with 20 million people. Los Angeles is second with 15 million, Chicago is third with 8.5 million, Washington, D.C., is fourth with 7 million, and San Francisco is fifth with 6.5 million.
What is the circumference of the Earth?
The circumference of the Earth at the equator is 24,901.55 miles, 40,066.59 kilometers. Due to the irregular, ellipsoid shape of the Earth, a line of longitude wrapped around the Earth going through the North and South poles is 24,859.82 miles, 40,000 kilometers. Therefore, the Earth is a little bit, about 41 miles 66 kilometers, wider than it is high. The diameter of the Earth is 7,926.41 miles, 12,753.59 kilometers.
Was the flooding of the Nile predictable before dams were built?
The summer floods of the Nile River were so predictable that the Egyptian calendar was based on their rise and fall. Flooding on the Nile occurred from late June until late October. The floods brought nutrients and sediments beneficial to the nearby agricultural lands, making farming productive throughout the remainder of the year. Measuring scales called nilometers were placed along the river, and not only measured the river height but also served as a calendars.
How long is a day?
A day is the time it takes the Earth to make one rotation, which is 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.2 seconds. We round this to an even 24 hours for convenience.
Why do we have daylight saving time?
By moving our clocks forward 1 hour between spring and fall, we more effectively utilize the light of the sun to keep homes and businesses lit, saving electricity.
What is a jungle?
A jungle is a forest that is composed of very dense vegetation. The term tropical rainforest can often be used interchangeably with jungle. Jungles occur most often in tropical areas such as the Amazon and Congo River basins.
Who invented geography?
The Greek philosopher Thales was one of the first to argue about the shape of the world in the 6th century B. CE. And Chinese texts of the 5th century BCE describe the provinces of China in great detail. However, the Greek scholar Eratosthenes is credited with the first use of the word geography. In the 3rd century BCE, he is also known as the father of geography for his geographical writing and accomplishments, including the measurement of the circumference of the earth.
What is the tallest self-supporting structure in the world?
The CN Tower in Toronto, Canada, built as a television transmission tower, is the world's tallest self-supporting structure, at 1,815 feet, 553 meters.
What was the world's first skyscraper?
Completed in 1885 in Chicago, Illinois. The Home Insurance Company building was the world's first skyscraper.
What was Levittown?
The 3 Levittowns were large housing developments built from the mid-1940s through the early 1960s by William J. Levitt and his construction company. Levitt invented a process to mass-produce homes by making each home exactly the same. The first Levittown was located in New York and consisted of 17,000 homes. The subsequent Levittowns were built in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Levittowns were the forerunner of the suburb.
What is a boomerang?
The boomerang was developed as a hunting tool by the Aborigines of Australia. There are 2 types of boomerangs, those that return and those that do not return. The returning boomerang is used to kill small animals. The non-returning boomerang is used to kill large game or enemies.
What is a refugee?
A refugee is a person who leaves his or her home country for fear of persecution. There are approximately 15 to 20 million refugees in the world today. Most refugees come from developing countries where society is in flux or even chaotic. Refugees usually flee to the closest stable country. So different countries see great variation in the number of refugees based on the political climate of their neighbors. Thus, developed countries consistently have a large number of refugees arriving. Refugees are problematic, just as any mass immigration is.
What are the horse latitudes?
These high-pressure regions, more formally known as subtropic highs, are warm and don't have much wind. Legend has it that the lack of wind sometimes caused sailors of the 16th and 17th centuries to throw their horses overboard in an effort to conserve water on board. That's how the region, centered around 30 degrees latitude, got its name.
What happened at 3 Mile Island?
Three Mile Island, Pennsylvania, was the site of the United States' worst nuclear accident. Luckily, no radiation was released into the environment and no one was killed. In March 1979, the nuclear reactor at the 3 Mile Island plant overheated, breaking the radioactive rods. Pennsylvania's governor recommended a voluntary evacuation of pregnant women and preschool children who lived within 5 miles, 8 kilometers, of the plant. It was the unexpected self-evacuation of residents in the area that created major problems. The evacuations yielded surprising information about the lack of preparedness of communities for such an event, and have led to increased planning and preparedness for nuclear accidents and evacuations.
What commodity makes the Persian Gulf so strategically important?
The Persian Gulf is strategically very important because a large share of the world's petroleum is transported through it in oil tankers. At the southeastern end of the Gulf is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point that can be, and has been, controlled to prevent ships from sailing in or out of the Gulf.
Where is the northernmost rainforest?
Juneau, the capital of Alaska, is in the middle of one of the largest and most northerly rainforests in the world, which is located within the Chugach National Forest and Chugach State Park. Others extend to the northern regions of Japan and Siberia, Russia.
How did the Monroe Doctrine protect the Americas?
In 1823, President James Monroe gave a speech that declared the Americas off-limits to European powers. These policies became known in the 1840s as the Monroe Doctrine. Since 1823, the United States has used the Monroe Doctrine not only to prevent intervention by Europeans but also to further its own expansionist goals. How many countries has the U.S.?
Where does wind come from?
The Earth's atmospheric pressure varies at different places and times. Wind is simply caused by the movement of air from areas of higher pressure to areas of lower pressure. The greater the difference in pressure, the faster the wind blows. Some detailed weather maps show wind speed along with isobars. Areas of equal air pressure, indicating the level of air pressure.
What makes Brazilian automobiles run?
Over half of Brazilian automobiles use alternatives to petroleum known as gasohol and ethanol. Gasohol is made from sugarcane and ethanol is made from alcohol. The two fuels are much less expensive than petroleum-based gasoline.
What is the longest building in the world?
Catching a flight from Osaka, Japan's Kansai International Airport could involve a walk of more than a mile. It is 5,580 feet, 1.7 kilometers, long.
Who were the earliest explorers from Asia?
Many scientists believe that around 14,000 BCE small groups of peoples, originating from what is now Siberia in Russia, crossed a land bridge to what is now Alaska. From there, they moved as far south as South America. Considerable genetic evidence, archaeological finds, and skeletal remains support this theory.
What was the Industrial Revolution?
The Industrial Revolution began in the 18th century in England with the transformation from an agricultural-based economy to an industrial-based economy. It was a period of increased development in industry and mechanization that improved manufacturing and agricultural processes, thereby allowing more people to move to the cities. It included the development of the steam engine and the railroad.
What caused the Great Indian Ocean Tsunami of December 2004?
A magnitude 9.0 earthquake in the ocean off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, caused a reverberating swell of water to move toward Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, and the Maldives. Its effects were felt as far away as Africa, before it finally dissipated.
Who controls the world's oil supply?
The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, coordinates most of the world's oil production. The members of OPEC meet to coordinate oil policies and prices. 13 countries comprise OPEC: Algeria, Angola, Ecuador, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. Though Russia, the United States, and Mexico are also leading petroleum producers. The three countries are not members of OPEC.
What is a long lot?
Long lots are long and narrow pieces of property. This type of division of land is common in Europe and places in North America that were initially settled by the French, such as Quebec and Louisiana. Each lot has a narrow access to a stream or road but is several hundreds of feet deep.
What does the suffix stan mean?
The suffix stan, as in Afghanistan, means nation or land. Therefore, Afghanistan literally means land of the Afghans.
Which European country produces the most nuclear energy?
France produces the second most nuclear energy in the world, generating 415 terawatt-hours per year. This is more than half of the 780 terawatts that the United States produces each year.
What were some of the earliest colonies?
The Phoenicians, around the year 1000 B.C.E., founded some of the first colonies in Tyre, present-day Lebanon. Colonists from there went on to colonize Carthage, present-day Tunisia, and the coast of Spain. This enabled them to control access to the Atlantic Ocean and trade with the indigenous peoples of what is today Great Britain and France.
When did the Suez Canal begin to operate?
After a decade of construction, the Suez Canal, built by the French, opened on November 17, 1869. The 101-mile-long, 162.5-kilometer-long, canal cuts through northeastern Egypt, making a passageway for ships to sail between the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, which leads to the Indian Ocean.
How can I find the latitude and longitude of a particular place?
To find latitude and longitude of a particular location, you will need to consult either a gazetteer or a computer database that includes longitude and latitude data. Though gazetteers are readily accessible, they don't include as many places as online databases. There are a number of sites on the internet that have extensive databases of latitude and longitude and even include such specific places as public buildings.
What is the capital of Australia?
The capital of Australia is Canberra, which is located in a federal territory, similar to Washington, D.C., within the Australian state of New South Wales. When Australia was founded in 1901, both Sydney and Melbourne wanted to become the capital city. In 1908 it was ultimately decided that a brand new capital city would be built and located away from the coast. Canberra is the largest city in Australia that is not on the coastline, population 334,000.
What is a Mediterranean climate?
A Mediterranean climate is a climate similar to the one found along the Mediterranean Sea. Hot and dry in the summer and warm and wet in the winter. Areas that are renowned for having Mediterranean climates but are not near the Mediterranean Sea are California and Chile.
How do maquiladoras help clothe the United States?
Maquiladoras are Mexican factories owned by foreign, usually U.S. corporations. Most often located along the Mexican U.S. border. Maquiladoras receive raw materials from the United States and produce finished goods for export. Maquiladoras commonly produce clothing and automobiles.
Why are some borders curvy while others are straight?
There are two primary types of boundaries: geometric and natural. Geometric boundaries are straight and follow lines of latitude, longitude, or a certain compass direction between points. Geometric boundaries were established to divide territories before settlers entered areas. Most of the states in the western United States have at least a portion of their borders formed by geometric boundaries. Especially rectangular-shaped Colorado and Wyoming. Natural boundaries are usually curvy because they follow the crests of mountains or the center of rivers. Natural boundaries are very common in places like Europe, where the region was populated before the countries were created.